Blair dusted off the cobwebs and came out of the crypt, the coffin in which he hides in, the blood-sucking parasite that he is, and spoke to Andrew Marr this morning. You know by now that the Chilcot report will publish on the 6th of July. Doesn't matter whether it will or whether it won't. Blair's not going to be in any bother. This is Blair talking to Andrew Marr this morning, of course, about immigration.
I think people's concerns about immigration are completely understandable. Indeed, this is a worldwide phenomenon. So it's not just a big issue here, it's a big issue in the rest of Europe, it's a big issue in America. And I understand why people think the levels are too high. But the fact is, one, the biggest problem we have is non-EU migration. And secondly, the reason why the Leave people have now really focused on immigration and day after day after day is because they've lost comprehensively the debate on the economy. And what is now clear, and I don't think they can really dispute, is that if we did vote to leave, the economic aftershock would be severe and directly measurable in jobs and living standards and business confidence.
The lies just pour out of his mouth, don't they? The Leave side have comprehensively lost the argument on the economy. No, you monumental psychopaths, they have not. This morning, even Herman Munster himself, Yanis Varoufakis, the lying madman who led Greece into the abyss, having fooled the Greek people along with Alexis Tsipras that he would lead them to the promised land, away from austerity. That lying bastard was on the sofa this morning as well, and he even conceded that it's that much of the vote Remain propaganda, which Blair is alluding to there, about aftershocks in the economy, much of it is just made up. It's just made up conjecture, no basis in reality. Lying bastard Blair. He went on to gleefully mention the story I mentioned earlier on in The Observer, that 80% of the economists surveyed by The Observer said that we should stay in. What a bastard. What a lying bastard. Andrew Marr asks Blair then about Blair championing Turkey's membership of the European Union. You won't be surprised to learn, my friend, that Blair lied again.
Turkey, there is no possibility of Turkey joining in the near future.
Liar.
If Turkey ever does meet the accession terms, then it's a vote that we have a veto on in Britain. So, you know, to raise Turkey in this context is again to demonstrate why what they want to do is to raise the general fear of migration. Because when you look at the particular facts, their case just doesn't stack up. And
we're always told that things are not going to happen, and then they do. You yourself said that it was in Turkey's interest in its future to join the EU, and you're a big advocate of that, as was David Cameron, and we can therefore assume that in due course Turkey will join the EU.
No, you can't assume that because they've got to meet the conditions. However, yes, I certainly have been an advocate and always will be an advocate for us to apply to Turkey the same rules that we apply to everyone else. But the reality is there is no possibility of Turkey joining in the short term. And the people who are running the Leave campaign, they know that perfectly well.
Massive, massive lie. Massive lie. They must meet the accession conditions first. That's going to take years. Liar. Liar. Blair in 2004 and in 2006, while he was still Prime Minister, tried to push this, tried to expedite Turkey's membership, as was reported widely by the BBC and The Guardian at the time. Blair said that Turkey joining the European Union was a vital step, vital for the world's future peace and prosperity. He's a lying madman. What they want to do, dear listener, is open Turkey or bring Turkey into the European Union so that now the European Union borders Syria. And it's not too far away from Yemen and Libya and everywhere else where the bloodthirsty Archon lunatics like Blair are causing carnage. That's what it's all about. And then Europe will be overwhelmed. It isn't quite overwhelmed yet, but it's not getting too far away from it, by desperate people whom we've engineered a situation where those people's homes are being destroyed, where their families are being murdered, and they're having no choice but to flee. And as I said on the TV show on Friday, they engineer the hostility then between people in Britain and those innocents leaving Syria and Libya. Now, they're not all innocent, because among these groups of people, of course, will be jihadists. That's also part of the plan, who will create atrocities and will murder people, given the opportunity in European countries as well. I'm not ignoring that. But largely, these are good people. But when they get here, they must not ally with us. By they, I mean the immigrants, and by us, I mean ordinary people. God forbid that we should turn against the lunatics, the puppet masters. That's what I'm saying all along. I have good friends in the independent media who don't agree with me. And they think that, it's always a bit dangerous, Rich. It's not a bit dangerous. This is the way it's been engineered. I'm tired of saying it. Lying bastard Blair, he knows exactly why they want Turkey to be a member of the European Union. Then Mar asked him about ISIS, about Syria, and about the Chilcot report.
Now, I know you can't talk about the Chilcot inquiry and all of that, but after the kind of ghastly episode of the Iraq war, are you seriously in favour of us going into Syria to confront ISIS in Syria on the ground?
I'm in favour of confronting ISIS in Syria on the ground. We don't need to do it with our own troops, with our own boots in the ground, and we haven't. Although what the Americans have been doing recently, in the support that they've been given, has had a huge impact on this fight against ISIS. And let's be clear, this is a global problem today. Okay, it's not just ISIS in Syria. You've got ISIS in Libya. You've got Boko Haram in Nigeria. You've got Al-Shabaab in Somalia. You've got the groups out in the Philippines and Thailand. It's a global problem.
But at the core of this problem, we've got ISIS, so-called Islamic State, in Syria and Iraq, moving into a hideous vacuum created by the Iraq War, created by the Civil War, and therefore ultimately created by decisions that you took.
If you take the countries on the critical list today, okay, which would be Syria, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen, in only one of those cases, have you got a government that is capable of fighting terrorism and that is recognised as internationally legitimate, including by both Saudi Arabia and Iran, and whose prime minister turns up in the White House, and that's Iraq. So I understand all the issues, and we'll debate them when we get to Chilcot, but this idea that all of this comes from the decision to remove Saddam, no,
we can debate
you've got to go back into this and look at the roots of it.
Look at the roots of it, says the madman Tony Blair, who looks increasingly more and more worried on a daily basis. I don't think he's worried about justice. He's certainly not worried about the spectre of having to answer a judge in The Hague, but I think he's worried about what's going to happen when he's not around anymore. For him, that is, I've no doubt about that.